Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer in New Orleans on a little vacation there. We are taking a look at a 3-game slate here in the NBA. In this one, we're talking about the Wizards, who are taking on Milwaukee after crushing them the other day. Also got our player props video and another game video up for you. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where we write about everything we're talking about here all season long. And we have our odds finder tool in all those articles. You can use that to make sure you're getting the best juice back on all these NBA bets you make this season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into this 3-game slate and then talk Bucks and Zards.
Yeah, the game we're not going to talk about is Boston -9 at OKC. OKC has played Boston tough recently, but the Celtics are a far more deep and talented team, so hard to pick that one. You got this game is Washington +8.5 right now. You mentioned they beat Milwaukee, granted without Giannis or Drew Holiday, who should both play tonight. That totals at 228.5. And then the other game we break down, Kings are +3 at the Jazz with a ridiculous 242 total. So expect to see some guys in our player props video from that game. Washington has won 6 of 7 here. Milwaukee has lost 5 of 6. Some of that is misleading because of, again, who's out for Milwaukee. I mean, this is like the 3rd time this year Drew's been out with a non-COVID illness. I don't know what he's got, but it seems to be affecting his play for sure. I mean, he's been pretty inconsistent on the offensive end, not really very aggressive in looking for a shot. And Giannis has just been absolutely putting this team on his back, and it hasn't even led to some wins lately. I mean, that ridiculous line he put up against Chicago in a loss, he did get over those props that we were like 55.5 PRA. No way he can do that. And he did. And they beat Minnesota, but Milwaukee's struggling. I mean, 118 defensive rating, more so struggling on offense to find anything other than Giannis doing work down low. And honestly, this is not a great matchup for him. Maybe if I hadn't already tried to sharp the under, I would be talking about it. Is 33.5 points for him tonight. I mean, he'll probably get there through sheer usage, but the Wizards with Porzingis back, of course, 98 defensive rating in his last 4, but also Rui Hachimura, who is a good matchup for Giannis, kind of that big body small forward who can follow him around. He has a nice 96 defensive rating in his last 2, and he's been unsustainably good on offense. I think the entire Wizards offense has kind of been unsustainable in this stretch, but it's certainly not going to keep firing on all cylinders, I think, against Milwaukee. I mean, both these teams are kind of the black and blue bruisers down low that can limit the opposition. I mean, neither of them hit threes. I mean, and especially you look at their last 4 meetings, all 4 have gone under. Milwaukee's shooting 32% from 3, scoring 103. Washington scoring 105, hitting 10 threes. Both teams getting just 14.5 free throws as well, which is like basically your only hope if you're expecting a high-scoring game. I mean, Milwaukee's home road splits, they score a lot more at home. Basically the difference is they're more efficient inside the arc and get a couple more free throws, but it's not as stark as we've seen in recent seasons, right? When they had Middleton, when they had Drew playing well, and they were just getting up and down and scoring 120 at home every time. It's almost the exact same pace as on the road, almost the exact same defensive rating. And recently it's just been a struggle from beyond the arc, like I'm saying, at home. And recently they've been hemorrhaging points in the paint in their last 3, but I think that stops here with Giannis back and with them heading back home here. But Washington's defense has been really impressive across the board in their last 3. So I think they can definitely cover 8 points. I would much rather have that than the favorite here. I don't even hate a +300 money line, but I think it's the under that is probably your smartest bet here. If it stays around 229, it's been bet down 1 point. If it doesn't get bet down much further, because also I got to mention Bradley Beal's questionable with a hamstring, and that could really turn this into a black and blue game, as I said.
Yeah, Bradley Beal being questionable is interesting because he missed the last game, and I don't know what you want to do with that. They still scored 118 points without him. That's the takeaway from that for me is they can score without Bradley Beal, especially if they have Kristaps Porzingis. So Kristaps being back has been an incredible help to them as sort of a back to the basket scorer as well, as a scorer from deep, which is really what you've been hoping for him since he came in the league. Is, he's not going to back you down and get you all the way down to the rim with his butt, but like he's 7'3", so he doesn't need much room to get over you. And he's actually like third right now in terms of his percentage, his field goal percentage inside the painted area in the league. So like you've got to really like what he's doing there. And that's a big reason for why they can score with and without Bradley Beal. But the reason that this Wizards team is like good at basketball now, by the way, I'll throw out Rui Hachimura as well. Coming back has looked really, really good. And maybe like a really solid trade piece, if nothing else, or maybe you sign him. But either way, like his offensive output, another reason that they've been able to score 118 without Bradley Beal. But I would also add that the defense, like they're really fucking good on defense now. And that's been a huge part of it. Daniel Gafford's been a huge part of that as well. But having Kristaps in for games, their defensive rating plummets to a solid degree when Kristaps is in there as well. So, everything for the Wizards is predicated really on that defense. And you look at what they've done over the course of the last like 7 games or so, where they've won 6 of those, and they've beaten some pretty good teams in there as well. That like we've talked about, they beat Philly. I don't know if you consider Phoenix good anymore, but they beat Phoenix. I consider Orlando good. They wiped the floor with them. They were missing guys, but they also beat Sac. They lost to Utah on the road, but they limited Utah to less than the 125 a game that they're averaging, so that's pretty good. But either way, it's the opponent field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, opponent assists, opponent free throw attempts, opponent rebounds, opponent points in the paint. All those things, they're dominating the paint. They're not fouling. They're not giving up easy threes. And nothing is really coming easy at this point for teams trying to play against them. So I do like the under 230. But if Giannis goes for like 42, which he's capable of and just did against Minnesota, then I do think that you just feel better about the +8, because even if Giannis does that, I feel confident in this Wizards team to be able to limit whatever anybody else is doing at this point, because of the fact that after Giannis, it's kind of similar, honestly, to Memphis's offense right now in terms of what's going on in Milwaukee. It's like one guy just go head down into the lane, either go up or kick it out for 3. That's what John Morant's doing in Memphis. That's what Giannis is. That's it right now for them, and that's another reason that their 3-point percentage, which usually looks a lot better, as opposed to what it's been over the course of this losing streak. Guys like Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, and obviously Chris Middleton not in there, Drew Holiday not in there. Not much else from 3. Even if you talk about Wes Matthews, Beauchamp, even Brook Lopez, all those guys are spot up 3-point shooters outside of like Chris and Drew. Nobody else is dribbling into a 3 at that point. So you really dependent upon Giannis doing that. If you can clog the lane with like 2 7-footers and a solid Kyle Kuzma at 6'10" playing a solid forward this season for them, I think you got to continue to like the Wizards defense to be able to keep them within 8 points for sure, and probably the under. But just I feel really, really good about the +8 for that reason.
Yeah, Milwaukee, a little extra rest here, especially for the 2 key guys we're talking about. They've not been good covering with extra rest. You're 1-3-1 against the spread on the season. They've not been good down the stretch either, 24th in fourth quarter scoring. And Washington, 7th fewest second half points per game allowed on the season. Obviously, number 1 in that, the last 3, the number 1 in defensive efficiency overall in their last 3. And most of it has to do with what you would need against Milwaukee, like you're saying, is length down low, size. We haven't mentioned Kyle Kuzma, who has turned into a good 2-way player, and another guy who you can use as a real oversized 2-guard if you need to, and had a triple-double against the Giannis-less Bucks here just a few days ago. I mean, Washington, with this style, has gone under in 7 of their last 9, and the 2 overs were at home. So that really leads into this theory that, I mean, on the road, they're going to try to win it with defense here. And certainly if they're covering, you think it's because the game's played in the 110s or lower, like the last 4 meetings have been, and therefore we're going under as well.
Yeah, I mean, just take the last game that they played, right? It's a total of 213. They score 118. The Bucks score 95. Go ahead and subtract like 7 points for the Wizards and add roughly 7 points for the Bucks. I would say with Giannis out there, I would say he's a solid 14-point swing in most games, especially when you don't have much answer for him. So if you want to look at that, you're still talking about like I said, I use all that math to say 210 to 215 total feels a lot more like what this will be like if the Wizards hang around. And if they don't, it's because their offense is anemic. And I still think that under feels pretty good about in this one. So a few ways to bet under and the Wizards to cover tonight. So that is all the time that we have for you in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us each and every weekday this season. And until we see you next, happy betting.